Mr. Jim, imagine you have a child, and every day that child walks into this classroom, he feels lonely and has no idea what to do to be successful. Every day your child walks in here, you see him sit down at his desk, screaming, crying, because he doesn't know what to do. He's even depressed. This is how many parents of children with autism feel. I'm credible to speak on this topic because back in high school, I helped teach autistic kids. I taught them things such as writing, saying their ABCs, taking the trash out, and even getting exercise. I know to a degree what it's like to help teach autistic children, and I actually have an idea of how intelligent they really are, and seeing them get a question right and light up is one of the best feelings in the world. We must raise awareness on autism and make the education they receive equal to children without brain disorders. In this speech, I will be telling you about autism in public education, the lack of teachers to help teach these kids with these special needs, and institutions that will help them make successful in life. Having autistic children in public education is a huge problem we are facing nowadays. Cindy Beehler, a teacher at Charlotte-Mecklenburg County, said that she wasn't physically able to give her autistic student Ashanti the help she needed. Ashanti had an IQ of 80, but was only performing at an IQ level of 50. She was a second grader going into third grade, and she only knew 13 letters of the alphabet. Imagine only knowing this much of the alphabet and be able to communicate with someone, the difficulties you will face, and the obstacles the teachers face trying to educate that student. According to the U.S. Department of Education, children with autism are made to be in the same class as other students without mental disabilities. This law is called the LRE, the Least Restricted Environment Law. According to law, Ashanti was made to be in Ms. Beehler's second grade class. Since Ashanti was so far behind the other students, Mrs. Beehler wasn't able to put her in other group work. So the only teaching Ashanti could receive was one-on-one tutoring from Mrs. Beehler herself. This alone made it impossible for her to focus on Ashanti and also focus on the other students. Therefore, Ashanti began being pulled out of class and taken into smaller groups. Although these smaller groups might sound like a good thing, that's not entirely true. There were still 13 students in her smaller group and still only one teacher. Ashanti still wasn't able to get the help she needed. Eventually, the end of the year rolled around, and Ashanti now knew 22 letters of the alphabet and only a couple of the sounds the letters made. By law, Ms. Beehler was made to pass Ashanti on to the next grade. This is the problem that we were facing with having autistic kids in public education, because by law, we have to move them on even if they aren't learning anything. Although it seems that we never be able to small the gap between the autistic education to the children with no brain disorders education, there is still hope for it. The past couple weeks, I've been working with a group in Charlotte called Cyzner Institute. Cyzner Institute offers therapy to children with autism from the ages from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. The main therapy offered at Cyzner is ABA therapy. ABA therapy is when the teacher will, through repetitive actions, try to get the student to do the same thing. If the student doesn't get it right, he is reprimanded and has to do it again until he finally gets it right.
Ashanti, touch J. No, Ashanti, touch J. Good girl.
Cyzner focuses on having smaller classes so they get more one-on-one training. This is already a step up because in public education we are facing a shortage of teachers. According to the Sage Journal, public schools are addressing the shortage of special needs teachers in public education by hiring teachers that are not professionally trained and do not know how to deal with these type of children. At Cyzner, the teachers have degrees and certifications that say they are able to take care of these children. According to the Public School Review, 50 children are diagnosed with autism a day. According to the Center of Diseases of Control and Prevention, in 2004, 1 in 125 kids had autism. In 2006, 1 out of 110 kids were diagnosed with autism. In 2008, 1 out of 88 kids had it. Currently, 1 in 68 kids have it. Since the rate of autism keeps going up higher, we need to have more institutions like Cyzner to help deal with all these autistic kids and give them the help they really need to become successful in life. I personally didn't used to agree with Cyzner because it's crazy expensive, $30,000 a year. But after hearing stories about children who went through that and the success they now have, makes you realize that it is a great place. While working with Cyzner, I was able to interview an ABA therapist there. Her name is Miss Hurwitz. Miss Hurwitz told me this story about one of her students whose name is Caleb. When Caleb first went there, he used to be really low on the development scale and he wasn't able to do really anything on his own. Caleb couldn't pay attention long enough to hear what teachers were telling him, and he often lost track and didn't know what he was doing. After Ms. Hurwitz worked with Caleb for a while, she found out that he's a really, really smart kid. He's the type of person who can memorize numbers and charts, and he knew how to say the ABCs, and he could talk perfectly fine. And after a couple years, 4 years, at Cyzner, Caleb eventually became so successful, he was allowed to move on to public education and be back with the normal children. You should take action because everyone in America deserves an equal opportunity. Therefore, children with autism should receive the same education children without brain disabilities receive. Today, you learn about the problem of putting children with autism in public education, the shortage of public education teachers to help these kids, and institutions that will help them. As Michael Jackson once said, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. You have the opportunity to change the way autistic children are receiving education, and I challenge you to make a change. Thank you.